Hi, this is Kevin with The Basement Games, and I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more content like this. It really supports the channel. By the way, you could also check out thebasementgames.com for your best look at our inventory, as well as days we're playing, when our next raffle, auction, and various other videos and live events that we do are coming up. Are you ready to go? I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone and sand, and on the pedestal those words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair." Hey everybody, it's The Basement Games. My name is Kevin, and we are doing a deck tech on my new favorite deck. This is Ozymandias the Great, the King of Kings, the one and only. Now, the image I'm showing you right now is actually Ozymandias from the X-Men comic book in the Age of Apocalypse that they had there. But I'm referencing that, and also, of course, the Ozymandias poem, because the one that I call Ozymandias, you may know as just good old-fashioned Oswald Fiddlebender. So Oswald is from the D&D set. This is my man right here, Fiddlebender, excuse me. His lore is actually very interesting. He apparently has to do a lot with tinkering, and he reminds me of another great tinkerer, my original Tinker deck, Artifact Winds deck, which was Arkham Daxon. Now, Arkham Daxon being mono blue and a 4-drop, this was my first real competitive cEDH deck, where basically I would get Arkham out, I'd have a 0-drop Ornithopter or something like that, I'd activate him for 2 or 3 times, and I'd go for like a Lattice Lock, which would include Nev Disc and Darksteel Forge and things like that. Now, Arkham Daxon was great. It was a lot of fun, but it was also very, very linear, very glass cannon. All you have to do is kill one of the creatures early, or because he was a 4-drop, he oftentimes couldn't get out on turn 1. You also deal with issues where all you can really do in blue to deal with problems is to counter them, or potentially tutor, but you're going to tutor for a counter in general, maybe even a little bit of draw. But in general, countering is your main answer. And if you don't have the counter at the right time, it's not really much of an answer. However, in mono white, what you lack in tutors and counters and draw, you more than make up for in destruction, exile, protection, silence effects. Mono white handles problems. And when you add a tutor that gets your win cons, this becomes a hell of a deck. So here's what I did. I broke this down. Actually, we have it broken down right here. The way I want to show this off to you guys is by CMC, because it's really important that you actually see the converted mana cost of everything in here. Now, this deck, I believe, has 31 lands, and 19 of them are basic planes, and the rest are going to be non-basic lands. And so we're going to start with the 0-drops. My goal with this deck, this deck that routinely wins in competitive pods on turn 2 or 3. Okay, turn 2 or 3, this is going down depending on what your opening hand is and what the interaction is on the board. So on turn 2 or 3, you've got to make sure on turn 1 your commander is in play. If you don't have enough mana to get your commander in play, then you must have enough ramp that you can not only get him in play on turn 2, he can be activated on turn 2, and there are ways to do that. So I'm going to run you through the 0-drops that I put in this deck, and then we'll go from 0 to 1 to 2. Because if you read Ozymandias, how it works, you sack an artifact, and it's sorcery speed only, so it really is fair. You must pay a mana into it, and there's another limitation. You only get an artifact that is 1 CMC bigger, okay? So that's really important, because that means that things that actually have no or X mana cost, like a Walking Ballista, you can't tutor for that. And if it's a 0 mana cost, you can't tutor for that either. So realistically, you're only able to tutor through 1-drops through 4-drops. But you can use the 0-drops to power that, okay? So let me walk you through this real quickly and what I put in here. First off, there is a lot of utility in the lands that actually have artifact as a subtype, because that counts as a 0-drop artifact that you can sacrifice to get a 1-drop artifact and get this combo going. So of course, and there's extra utility in for example, if games go long and this is a tempo kind of way where you need to get extra untaps with a Mycosynth Lattice, and an Unwinding Clock. Everything's an artifact anyway, but with an Unwinding Clock by itself, you get extra value of untapping your artifact land. So that's a no-brainer. Ancient Den is in there. We also put Ancient Tomb because, honestly, if damage is the reason you die in this game, you done fucked up. This is a game where you're going to combo off before turn 3. That's generally how this game is played. So Ancient Tomb's in there. Blinkmoth Nexus, another. This will basically be a 0-drop artifact. Then you're going to see that you can sacrifice artifacts for extra value. You can use them to tutor for extra value. So these types of lands, again, this is more of a tempo build, but it's always great to have these artifacts because you never want to be without an artifact to sacrifice. Darksteel Citadel, exact same reason. Emergent Zone, this is just great utility because being able to sacrifice this whenever you need to have flash till the end of turn is incredible. Very, very useful. Often means you can combo off on someone else's turn as long as it's not with tutoring your commander. Again, the commander has the caveat that you are locked in to a sorcery speed tutoring only. Then we have Gemstone Caverns because, again, getting your commander out on turn 1 is of the utmost importance. So having basically a free land before your turn 1 is how you're going to get that accomplished. Inventor's Fair, this is one of the few non-basic lands that's not specifically an artifact, but it tutors artifacts. There's 4 or 5 ways in this deck to tutor artifacts. Your commander is a primary one. However, Inventor's Fair should not be overlooked because you will easily meet the ability where you have to have a certain amount of artifacts to sack one, but being able to tutor for any artifact at instant speed, incredibly clutch. This can sometimes be the make or break with the game. I've definitely relied on Inventor's Fair many times. Then we have JLo. I really struggled with JLo. I didn't put it in originally because I hate that there's an extra floating. I mean, assuming I haven't recast him, my commander. So I don't like that it wastes mana, but I understand that getting him out on turn 1 is of the utmost importance, so JLo stays. Then we have Lotus Petal, the exact same reason, and sometimes just having an extra mana can be very, very useful and clutch at certain key points. We have, of course, Mana Crypt, Nikokoro. Now, this is going to be a beta version of this deck for me. I don't think, although I have won some cEDH games with this deck, I don't think the final version of this deck will have the exact same list, and I'll be updating it here on Tapped Out for you guys. But being able to draw sometimes is the difference between life and death. Sometimes you just need that extra draw that'll get you to that path or that swords or that silence effect, and this is going to get you there. Yes, it'll give advantage to everybody else, but this is by far one of the cheapest ways in white and colorless to get that effect off, so that stays in there. Mishra's Factory, which of course makes an artifact creature. Then you have Mishra Workshop. Now, I do happen to actually own a Mishra's Workshop. Not everybody does. This is why I'm very liberal on the proxy policy. Workshop is clutch in any artifact deck. Being able to generate 3 artifact mana, incredible. Then, of course, you have Mox Amber. Now, originally I didn't consider Mox Amber except for, in general, my commander's always on the board. So having a Mox Amber is just another free rock. And with all these other free rocks and ways to get him out, Mox Amber just gives you extra utility. Mox Diamond, we're familiar with Mox Opal. Then you have your Plains, Reliquary Tower. I haven't gotten to the point where I actually need to use Reliquary Tower. There are definitely ways where you can draw your entire deck, but by the time you draw your deck, you should have won. So this will likely find a swap in the future. Treasure Vault. I love this card. Treasure Vault is something that I think a lot of people have slept on with this D&D set. You get to make, think about it this way, there are numerous ways to make infinite mana in this deck, and I'm going to break them down for you. But with Treasure Vault, you can put that infinite mana and create infinite mana of a certain color. And that's game. Game, set, and match. It's not many cards that you need actual white mana for, but the very clutch ones you do, and this is one way. If you're all tapped out and you have infinite mana and you don't have any color, oh my god, what a great salvation this can be for you. Urza Saga, another tutor land. That's 2 lands that tutor for you, and this will get a 0 or 1 drop, which is fantastic. Walking Ballista, this one you cannot tutor. However, it is a combo piece. With infinite mana, it wins the game. This is one of the combo pieces in here. I believe I counted out 7, but don't forget what this does with Heliod. This is an instant win with Heliod, and it only takes 6 mana to get the whole combo off. Or again, with infinite mana, you can just put it all into Walking Ballista and kill everybody that way. So he by himself wins games. So even though he's untutorable outside of like an Enlightened Tutor or let's say the land that you sacrifice, Walking Ballista is incredible value. So of course that's going to stay in there. And Winding Canyons. This one may also find its way out of it, but I do like the idea of potentially making infinite mana another player's turn, flashing in a Walking Ballista, game, set, match. It hasn't happened yet. I've only got to play a dozen games or so with this, but I do enjoy this kind of utility. All right, let's move on to the 1-drops. Now, the 1-drops, again, these are going to be in your opening hand. This is the difference between making a game that wins on turn 2 or 3 and not. So, in general, I'm going to have 1 or 2 of these 0-drops, including a land or a rock, that'll get my commander out. The 1-drops are going to be the make or break to decide what happens on turn 2. So here's what we have with the 1-drops. The first one, because I'm going to be primarily in very high level of cEDH decks that often use Adnaz and Thassa's Oracle, Angel's Grace is your answer to everything. It basically completely shits on Thassa's Oracle, and it's one of the best answers to somebody who's trying to combo out before you do. So Angel's Grace is an auto-include in any deck like this with splashes white. Enlightened Tutor, one of the very, very few artifact and enchantment tutors in mono white, and this one can get you any win con or any setup piece or anything really. One of the most clutch cards you're going to find, but very rarely will it be in your opening hand, and unfortunately there's just no way for you to get it proactively outside of top decking. Esper Sentinel, this one you can easily tutor for, especially if you have your creature out, your commander, and you're managed to, if you have enough mana and you can activate it on turn 1, this is an auto turn 1 or turn 2 if you're not about to win on turn 2 or 3. This will give you a ton of value. Grindstone. Most people are familiar with the Grindstone Painter Servant combo. This is one of the pieces you can easily tutor for. And Grindstone by itself has a little bit of value because if you just have a bunch of mana, you could throw it in and have a little bit of fun with it. But yeah, the Grindstone and of course the Painter Servant combo is how you get that done. But there's one of the 1-drops. Then we go into some of the other things that are mana related. So we have Mana Vault. This is going to be Manifold Key. Let's see if I can open it up. No, apparently we can't. Manifold Key is going to be, of course, because yeah, there we go. Untap another target artifact. Now there are times, very, very clutch times, when untapping an artifact is make or break the game for you. You know, if you get that out on a Mana Vault, that's an extra 2 mana, which potentially could loop into a lot of other things. You get this onto a Metal Worker, that could be the game, as it has been in my past. If I've got a full grip of all artifacts and I Metal Worker a second time, sometimes that's all I need. Game, set, match. So Manifold Key is an obvious include. Path to Exile, because sometimes you just need an answer for shit. So there's a Path to Exile. Scout's Warning is a newer card in this deck. I really like it though. Again, it is a top deck or an opening hand kind of card, but the ability to flash in your commander on someone else's end step, hence giving you pseudo haste, and it's a cantrip that replaces itself. It's just so much value. And if they counter, they counter. You cast your commander on your turn, no big deal. But having the ability to have pseudo haste is very, very clutch. Divining Top, I mean, what more can you be said? It's a 1-drop. It looks at the top 3 cards. It draws a card. With the right amount of mana and a Rings of Brighthearth, you combo off and you draw your entire deck. This is in any deck that does this kind of stuff. And then, of course, we run into a Silence. A Silence is going to be another answer card that will basically... I primarily run these on my turn, so here's how I bait out a counter. If I'm about to win on this turn, I'll cast a Silence, and that'll either bait a counter out, or if they don't have it, I know I'm pretty good, and the Silence resolves. So, yes, these kind of effects, I run this and another one I'll show you in a minute, are great ways to basically say that the turn is mine and the game is mine. Because primarily, you're going to win on your turn, even if you're flashing in artifacts at other turns, because Oswald, or Ozymandias as I call him, only has sorcery speed through tutoring. Sorry. All right, so then we have, of course, Soul Ring and Swords. On to the 2-drops. We have ourselves Arcane Signet. Again, a lot of 2-drop mana rocks, and it's important to be aware of the CMC in this deck for many reasons. One of them also being your 2-drops feed your 3-drops. Now, several of the 2-drops are combo pieces, but several of them are value pieces that are meant to be sacrificed so you can get your 3-drops, which are literally the game-winning pieces. All right, so I'll walk you through how that's going to work. So first off, we have ourselves Arcane Signet, obvious mana rock. Occasionally, a stacks piece is needed for a tutor. You realize the guy before you or another guy is going to go ahead and try to combo off themselves, and they need to cast a lot of spells to do that. So therefore, being able to tutor for Ether Sworn Canonist is clutch in every way. This doesn't slow you down at all. You are almost always playing artifact spells, and even if you're not, you're tutoring them into play. So this is an auto-include in a deck like this that allows you to basically let go of a manifold key or, you know, a silly soul ring to pick up a stacks piece that will literally turn off a good percentage of the cEDH decks that are out there right now. Then we have, of course, Felwar Stone, another mana rock. Grand Abolisher. Now, again, this is one of those ones. The problem with the white spells in general, and there aren't many. I can tell you exactly what we have there as far as white. What is our white drops? It looks like we have, yeah, 18 cards. I think that's actually a little high. I might have read that wrong. Less than 20%. It might be exactly 20%. Somewhere right around there. But roughly 20%, or 1 in 5, is going to be white-only cards. I feel like that's a little high. I'll have to double-check that. And they're not tutorable, and that's worth knowing about because they're problematic. I actually think it's less. But because they literally can't be tutored, so you're forced to draw them, and that's it. So when you're designing this kind of deck, you want to make sure that you know exactly the purpose for every card that you've got in there. And if you have too many cards that can't be tutored by your commander, then you're shit out of luck. You should be moving and taking those pieces out and going more for the artifact build, in my opinion. So Grand Abolisher is going to be one of those. The reason it gets to stay in there is because if it comes into play and it gets to stay out on my turn, and if I'm allowed to see the goddamn card, I don't know why tapped out is being a pain in the ass right now, but it is going to be a pain in the ass, which is why I love doing this kind of stuff. Honestly, I just feel that the best way to consistently win this game is by having pieces that allow you to have your own turn and allow you to basically turn off someone else's turn, turn off their interaction. If you're allowed an unmolested turn, you typically will win. So that is what your Grand Abolisher will get you. Then we go to Grim Monolith. Grim Monolith, just extra value, and worst case scenario, if you're not untapping it for more value, you can sack it and get a 3-drop. Ichor Wellspring, this is another one. I love this one right here. Again, absolutely loving tapped out for what it's doing for me. Every time you ETB, so whether you cast it or whether it's tutored into play, you draw a card. Once it goes to the graveyard, you sacrifice it, you draw a card. You use a Dross Skeleton, or Dross, whatever the hell it's called, Dross Scorpion, you get it back into play, rinse, repeat. This thing is going to go damn near infinite for you. Super value, and again, gets you a 3-drop, which is what you need. Lightning Greaves, being able, this is one of the ways to get your commander in play on turn 1 activated. And I can't stress how important that is. That basically sets you up to win if you're doing this right. Liquid Metal Torque, this is going to be another mana rock, but it also has the added value with things that basically, for example, you turn something into an artifact and then you can sacrifice it. You go ahead, this is like a creature, a non-artifact creature. Or if you want to go ahead and get an untap effect, you can go ahead, use the liquid metal, turn something into an artifact, and you get the untap effect with Winding Canyon, or Unwinding Clock. So very, very useful card. Highly recommend. Mandate of Peace, this is another silence effect. A lot of people don't realize because they see the combat situation, they're like, is that really necessary? A lot of people, in my personal experience, they'll attempt to cast it during someone else's combat. Don't forget, you can cast this during your own combat. So you go from main phase to combat, beginning of your combat, you silence the board. If nobody responds, combat's over, you're in main phase too. I'm not going to win with combat damage with this deck. It's very unlikely I would win with combat damage with this deck. So combat's not important, but silence is. And this is definitely another way to achieve that. Then, of course, we have Mind Stone, we have Mirror Retriever. Mirror Retriever is part of a combo, a fantastic combo, that basically says whenever Mirror Retriever dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So there's an actual loop that goes from Dross, I believe it's Dross Scorpion, and another card, might be Mirror Turbine, I'll have to double check, that basically one hits the graveyard, the other one grabs it, and then they just rinse, repeat, and they keep going back and forth. And if you have infinite mana, you can keep casting, get extra value. There's a ton of fun with that. So yeah, that's Mirror Retriever. Then you have Painter Servant. As I mentioned before, Painter Servant combos off it is a combo piece with Grindstone, Painter Servant Grindstone, together again in competitive EDH, and we lost Iona for this. Alright, so next up we have Prismatic Lens. This is going to be another mana rock that, of course, can fix your mana for you. Rest in Peace. Rest in Peace is part of a combo. First of all, exiling graveyards in general in cEDH wins games. Just getting rid of a graveyard wins games for you. You don't need a graveyard. You can live without your graveyard. So many people that play Underworld Breach need their graveyards. If they're playing a Lion's Eye Diamond, they need their graveyard. Okay? If you get rid of it, they have to deal with this before they can combo off. Just a fantastic card. And then, of course, Thought Vessel. Again, another 2-drop mana rock. I haven't had a problem with having too many cards in my hand. Typically, if I do, I win. It's over. But another mana rock that's easy. All right, then we get into the real pieces, and I've already shown you at least 2 combos that are in between 0 and 2 drops. Okay? Now we're going to go to 3 drops where it really starts adding up. But first, I'm going to show you a little bit of value as well. Archaeomancer's Map. Now, you may have noticed there was no land tax. Land tax as a 1-drop seems like an auto-include in any deck that splashes white. However, it's not tutorable for me. It's got to be in my opening hand. And it suffers from the fact that if I win first and I've got the most lands in play, I get no value. So that could be a dead turn 1 play. I'm not doing that in this deck. Archaeomancer, on the other hand, comes in clutch on turn 1 or 2 whenever I actually need it, maybe even as much as turn 3, will get me the lands, will be an artifact I can sacrifice very easily, and then finally, if another player does have more lands than me, it allows me to play that card when they play their card. It's a mini burgeoning. Very, very useful card in this deck. And again, most importantly, Ozymandias or Oswald can tutor this card, which just is the reason that games are won. Basalt Monolith. Basalt Monolith is the combo. For those that don't know, Basalt Monolith and Rings of Brighthearth, infinite combo. All you need is 5 mana to get that puppy going. So you basically tap it, that generates the 3 mana. Then you make a copy, or then you go to untap it, right? You put that trigger on the stack, which costs 3 mana. With Rings of Brighthearth in pay, you pay the 2. You now have untapped it, and you get to tap it again. Response, use the additional untap. You have generated infinite mana. So in case you haven't seen that trick before, I imagine if you care about cEDH, you know how this works. Blasting Station. Blasting Station is another part of a combo. So the combo piece, one of the easiest combo pieces here with Blasting Station, let me just show you this real quick, is a 5-drop called Mere Turbine. And it's actually a 3-card combo. And the combo goes like this. You cast... this is fantastic. Mere Turbine basically allows you to, when you put a creature, or excuse me, tap this artifact to generate a 1/1 creature, right? Blasting Station says, sack a creature, do 1 damage to an opponent or a creature, right? And then it also says at the bottom, whenever a new creature comes into the battlefield, untap this creature, right? Or untap this Blasting Station. Then with, I believe the other card is the 4-drop, which is Dross. Is that it? I believe it is. Yes. So with Dross in play, so it's Blasting Station, Mere Turbine, and Dross Scorpion. When these 3 are in play, Dross Scorpion says, when Dross or another artifact creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap target artifact. So you basically rinse repeat. With the Blasting Station in play, you sack the creature, you do 1 damage to an opponent. Because that was sacked, you untap the Mere Turbine, and then you make another creature. As you make another creature, Blasting Station is untapped, you sack, you rinse, you repeat. Game. GG. Then we have, of course, so that's another combo. And Blasting Station comes with several pieces. That's not just the only one, but that's the easiest one. Cathodin. This one is going to be just a huge value. There's another one that's a 4-drop that does similar. Cathodin basically, so it's a 3-drop that when you sacrifice it, it gains you 3 mana. 3 colorless mana you can use for anything, not to mention you're tutoring for a 4-drop. So very, very useful. Flawless Maneuvers. Now this is in here primarily, entirely to protect my commander. I wouldn't use it without my commander, maybe to protect a metal worker, but in general, my commander is always in play, and this is one way to keep him on the board, and it's a free cost with my commander in play. Then we have Generous Gift. This is going to be another way to just handle a problem, destroying any permanent. Very, very useful. Heliod combos with Walking Ballista or Triskelion. Reminder on that one. Because you can't tutor for Walking Ballista, if you've got the way to get to Triskelion, that's another way to get him out. Or if it's Triskelion walks into your hands and you manage to tutor it or play it. 2 combos for the same exact enchantment, that's a win. And of course, this can be still tutored with Enlightened Tutor, so another way to get him out. Then we have Metalworker. I think almost every game that I've won starts with Metalworker. This is why I really love this card, and I think it was an undervalued card for the longest time. I don't even know if at 150 this is still expensive enough. I'm just letting you know, this is a reserve list card. It makes infinite mana very, very easily. How do I make infinite mana easily? Well, let me tell you. So Metalworker out. I go ahead and reveal, let's say I reveal 2 artifacts. That's it. That's all I need. I need 2 artifacts. And that will generate 4 mana, right? And then usually I have quite a bit more, but 2 artifacts generates 4 mana. So it's now tapped. Well, with this little thing called Staff of Domination is one way to do it. There's actually several ways to do it. Staff of Domination, it says 3 mana, untap target creature. I now have 1 mana floating. I tap the Metalworker again. I generate another 4 mana. I now have 5 mana floating. And then I can untap Staff if I need to. That's not even the easiest one. The easiest one is actually 1,000-Year Elixirs. Umbral Mantle, that's right. Umbral Mantle costs just 3 by itself. It's 0 to equip, 3 to untap. As long as you're generating 4 off of 2 artifacts with Metalworker, you've got infinite mana. So as you can see, as you walk down this list, there's several ways to generate infinite mana. So that's Metalworker. If I can't get Metalworker out, or he's tapped and I can't get him untapped, well, that's what Mirage Mirror is there for. Mirage Mirror is another catch-all that basically can become anything you need it to for the turn. This one was actually suggested by my friend X, who said, this needs to be in here more so than a couple other cards. And I haven't gotten it in play yet, but I do agree with his assessment. In general, to be able to make a target copy of an artifact, enchantment, or creature, or even land until end of turn can be the difference between winning and losing. And this will give you that. Rings of Brighthearth, as I showed you before, was a combo enabler. Scrap Trawler is another one that combos off with things like Blasting Station and a bunch of these other creatures. For those that haven't seen this before, whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser value, with lesser CMC. So Scrap Trawler is a 3-drop, right? I showed you a 2-drop a minute ago. That was, and I said that there's a combo piece. That 2-drop is, where is this little guy at? It is Mirror Retriever. So 2-drop and a 3-drop, and these both bounce back to your hand, but you haven't netted any mana yet because you're still. It costs you 2 for this one. It costs you 3 for the other one. How do you get the mana? Well, that's where you work over to my friend KCI. This is Cart Clan Ironworks. Sack an artifact, generate 2 mana. So with that, am I missing a piece on that combo? I believe you still need. Because that generates 2. I haven't quite figured out all the combos, to be honest, but I know this one works with a combo, and man, is this not a great video. I wanted to share this. I didn't care if it was totally done. But I do know that works with one of the combos. I'll have to double check exactly because I think I'm missing. It might be a 4th piece for that particular combo. But they all do mesh together very nicely, being able to recur from your graveyard to your hand, recast, gain value, etc. So that's Scrap Trawler. Then you have Shimmer Mirror. This one was suggested to be taken out because I primarily win on my own turn. I think this is here because I'm still a green player at heart. And although white is my second favorite color, I just love being able to play creatures at instant speed, as you saw with the Winding Canyons. So Shimmer Mirror allows me to play any artifacts at instant speed. So sometimes that can be a real game changer. If I have a bunch of untapped mana, I didn't need to use it for a silence effect or a path effect or whatever. Shimmer Mirror's in play. It's his end step. I can flash in the rest of the stuff, so on my untap, I win. I mean, I like that. I think it's very clutch. It's also very tutorable. So if I need to be able to get to that, to be able to flash in other win cons, it's very hard to beat the utility of Shimmer Mirror. And he's a 3-drop I can sack for another 4-drop. Staff of Domination, basically with infinite mana, this wins you the game. This is all you need. Metalworker, Rings of Brighthearth, and Staff. You draw your entire deck. You've got colorless infinite mana. What do you want to do? You also can have a billion life too. It doesn't really matter. Win however you want, but that is a 3-card combo right there. Static Orb I did put in, and I don't know if it'll stay in forever because I do already have Ether Sworn, which is another good stacks piece. But Static Orb for the moment, because honestly, I normally only have to untap 1 or 2 things. If I untap a Metalworker, that's it. It does slow me down a little bit, but I have found that in certain games being able to turn off everybody else as well, and I just race them a little faster, can be very, very clutch. So for the moment, Static Orb is staying in. Of course, Tef Pro, best white spell out there. 1,000 Year Elixir, being able to activate either Metalworker or my commander the turn it comes in. That is the difference between winning and losing. And then getting an extra untap on top of that. Trinosphere, this is another new addition. I haven't used it yet. It was a suggestion by Todd where he's basically saying that, look, if people are going to have to combo your stuff, they're going to have to pay a little extra. And in general, because I'm not typically casting spells, I'm only putting them into play, I'm the one who gets the most advantage out of this. And because it's in my hand, I'm only going to cast it if I think it's going to be useful to me, or I'm only going to put it into play if I think it's going to be useful to me. So it's another great way to slow down competitive players that typically try to cast a lot of 0 and 1 drops, and this will slow them down tremendously. Umbral Mantle, you already saw, makes infinite mana very easily. Then we move on to, for some reason they put this out of order, we're going to go to the 4 drops next. Clock of Omens. You do need several ways to untap in this deck, especially for mid to late game strategies. Clock of Omens is one of them. I used to run Nevdisk in this spot, and I decided to take it out primarily because it was too slow. I know, turn 2 or 3 Nevdisk, you would think, oh, that's amazing. It actually is too slow. Same reason Smothering Tithe is not in here. It's too slow. And Clock of Omens basically will get me the untaps on a Metalworker, or, if I turn my commander into an artifact, or even just other artifacts that make mana and just go crazy with that. It can even untap the Mirror Turbine, and then I can rinse, repeat, and just make infinite mirrors. I've done that before. Then we have Draw Scorpion, which I think I showed you before. This was basically anytime you put an artifact or this creature into the graveyard, you untap another artifact. Goblin Cannon. Goblin Cannon is in here because with infinite mana, I win the game. Goblin Cannon is walking ballista. And just literally look at it as a walking ballista. You cast it, you have 10,000 mana, you put 10,000 into its active ability, you hold priority each time, and then you just do 50 damage, 50 damage, 50 damage, and the thing goes in the graveyard game. So it's a very simple win con, and it kills everybody. Helm of Obedience. Helm of Obedience is a little trickier of a win con because it does require an enchantment be in play to work. That enchantment I showed you was Rest in Peace that exiles all graveyard. Without Rest in Peace, you still get some utility out of this, especially if you have a bunch of mana, but it's not quite the same effect. So this may be a combo I take out. However, because Rest in Peace by itself is so damn good at controlling other cEDH players, I think I'm going to keep it in. KCI, again, being able to sack artifacts for 2 mana, rinse, repeat. Out of the cards I've shown you, there's many times when that is the difference between making and not making it, pumping that mana into something else, or just trying to combo off. KCI is a win for that. Then we have Solemn. Now, Solemn is a little bit of a... it's a pet card. I love Solemn. Solemn is great. I'm old school. I've had Solemn forever. I remember when they originally had a guy who designed it and his face was on it. But it's also incredible value. If you're not going to win, being able to tutor in a land, when you sacrifice it, you get a draw, and you get a 5-drop. Assuming the rest of your board is basically about stacking them down at this point, because this is definitely a tempo play, because you're not likely to get this on turn 1 or 2. So if you haven't won by turn 2 or 3, then you're looking to set up for like a turn 5 or 6 win, and tempo is where it's at, and this is perfect for that. It also doubles as a blocker. And then you got Suchi. Again, Suchi is very similar to the Cathodin one, where this one is a reserveless card that if you sacrifice it, you gain 4 mana as opposed to only 3. And again, that puts you into a 5-drop. And then finally, Unwinding Clock. Again, this is more late to tempo place pieces. I would say, honestly, anything over a 3-drop means that you're not trying to win on turn 2 or 3. The turn 4s and 5s are there basically for a mid to late game, and I mean turn 5 or 6. And honestly, that's what I find lacking in a lot of cEDH decks. And it was actually very lacking when I had this built as Arkham, because he had to go off and try to win on turn 1, 2, 3, or 4. If he couldn't, pretty much done. And you've probably seen this if you played in competitive decks. If they lose their Thassa's Oracle, the game is over. If they lose a numerous number of stupid-ass cards that they have, they can't really win anymore. And you just see a cEDH player go, I guess I'll hit you with my 1-drop. This doesn't fall for that. This doesn't have that same problem, because there's many, many, many ways to win from beginning to middle to end. On to the 5-drops, we have Cauldron of Souls. This one is the persist mechanic. I haven't actually gotten to a mid-tempo game yet with this deck, so this has not come into play. but I really like it a lot. So first off, with Triskelion, I'll show you in a second. That's an infinite combo. Triskelion is here, I'll just show you Triskelion because it's over here too. Triskelion is, it ETBs with 3 counters on it. You can remove a counter and do 1 damage to a creature or player, right? Basically a walking ballista, but it costs more and it comes in with only 3. However, when it dies, if you have given it, from Cauldron, if you have given it Persist, it comes back with a -1/-1 counter on it, right? And it's got the 2, it gets the +3/+3 counter, so technically only has 2 counters on it. But it actually removes the -1/-1 counter, so the -1 and the +1 nullify each other. It comes back with 2 counters. You give it a Persist again. Now this takes, obviously, you're going to need the Draw Scorpion to basically untap an artifact. But with those 3 things, rinse, repeat, this keeps coming back with 2 counters, 2 more, sacrifice, 2 more, sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And you got it. So and that's only 1 bit of utility. You can put this onto any creature, and as long as it's not a 1/1, it will come back and rinse, repeat. You can do this a lot. This is a really good card. The Forge Master. Again, definitely a late game tempo kind of play, but Kuldrotha by itself allows you to sacrifice 3 permanents. Now you can get those permanents off a Mere Turbine. They can be little 1/1s. They can be lands. They can be really Kuldrotha itself, and being able to put it into play, not to your hand, but into play. That's a game-winning move. And unlike what your commander is locked down to, a +1 CMC, this one is any artifact. I mean, yeah, I think you can get any artifact. That's crazy. So very, very useful, kind of a late game, let's set this up to win kind of strategy. And then finally, Mere Turbine rounds that out with the combos I've shown you so far. And then my last 3 cards, which are going to be Mystical Lattice. The Lattice is part of the Lattice lock, which I no longer play, so at some point this may find its way out, but I really enjoy Lattice effects. So it's in there for the moment, although it may find its way out. And by Lattice effects, I mean you use Lattice, you turn everything into an artifact, you use Unwinding Clock, everything untaps. So on your side, of course. So that's just incredible utility. Lattice also makes everything all the same color, so you don't have to worry about color problems. Occasionally I'm going to run into an issue where I don't have enough white to activate my commander, and this says everything is the color you need it to be. So that's just very, very good utility. But I think eventually that's going to find its way out. Planner Bridge is another one of those tutors. Look, there's not a lot of tutors in white and artifact that is going to help this deck out. And even more so, put it directly into play so it bypasses counter magic. This is one of those ways. If you manage to get infinite mana, and you can rinse, repeat, untap this is game. You know, it's another game winner, and I've shown you numerous ways to make infinite mana in this deck. So I like this for the moment. We'll see if it stays. And then finally, Triskelion. Triskelion and I have gone back a few different times, but I feel like it's going to stay in here primarily because it is another walking ballista, and it combos with several different cards. So anyway, that is the deck. That is what I'm currently calling Ozymandias. And as you can see, I mean, just looking at the mana curve right here, primarily my mana curve is 3. You know, that's more than 25% of the deck is 3 drops. And that means the another 20, almost 25% is 2 drops. And then combined between 0 and 1 are basically, you've got the other, what did I say, 25? Yeah, 25. This is almost another, yeah, let's call it, so that's 75% of the deck is 3 and under. And then you have just a few scattering ones at the 4 and 5 and 6 drop. And honestly, some of those probably can be cut as I learn how to tweak this deck a little faster and make it better. So that's the deck. I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun. It is gross. It makes every other deck I run seem kind of like not at all threatening. Because this is very hard to interact with. If you are not consistently killing my commander, or the other weakness it has is if somebody does go ahead and get an op agent, or the Griffin that basically says you can look at the top 4 cards. If you're locked down like that and you can't tutor, that is going to slow you down until I run across a path or a swords, a gifts, or I get like a Triskelion out and I kill it, a walking ballista and I kill it, that kind of stuff. So those definitely slow you down. I haven't run across anybody playing like the Torpor Orb effect or Collector Roof. Actually, one guy was playing a Collector Roof and I killed it really quickly. So those slow me down, but don't end the game for me. They just slow me down because, again, your commander is not an artifact himself. He just tutors for artifacts. So you can easily tutor for artifacts that have ETBs. So it's a really, really good, strong deck. I enjoy it. I'm sure there's many other builds out there. This just happens to be mine. And hopefully you enjoyed that. And according to Tapped Out, it's 92% competitive, whatever the hell that means. But yeah, that's the deck. Thanks for taking a look. It is thebasementgames.com. We've got a huge Facebook community. This is one of our deck tech series. I have other ones, including my Elfdrazi and some other builds that I've done in the past. I'm going to try to get these up once a week or so. Thanks for checking us out. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.